Divine and royal greetings, family. Shayola Benta here, along with Coach Shantae and Coach Latoya. We are a few of the practitioners, Tech Collective practitioners from the Emerald Green Collective. We are also here. What are we here to do, y'all? Part two of womb wellness. Last week's discussion was so enthralling, we thought that we would continue it. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and shout out to all of our IG family who is joining us. Thank you, Coach Shantae, for holding down the fort on this end. If you have any questions, thoughts, or concerns, feel free, Facebook family, YouTube family, put it in the chat here. We'll be able to see it. Coach Shantae is Woman, the IG side. So,
yes, indeed.
Let's get into it. So, who would like to start? What comes to your mind when you think of womb wellness?
You know, first and foremost, I'm just grateful that I have one. That's the starting point. Is just I'm grateful that I have one. And the first thing that comes to mind is my upbringing. My mother was not one to shy away from the body parts conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But even knowing about my womb and the functions of it and how it worked and when my menstrual cycle started, what all was supposed to happen, there was still so much about having a womb that I didn't know. And I didn't realize that I didn't have that knowledge until my child is 11. And I really just started learning the spiritual side of my womb about 2, maybe 3 years ago. There's an entire world that exists within our womb space, an entire spiritual realm that exists there. And I'm just grateful that I am in a space now where I can meet her there and have that type of connection and relationship. So that's the first thing that pops into my mind nowadays.
Okay. Okay. Coach Latoya, what say you as it relates to womb wellness? And I'm sure you're also happy that you have one.
Yes, I'm very grateful to have one. It's a beautiful thing. I think of my creativity when I think of my womb. Womb wellness. I feel like I definitely, when I started taking better care of myself, I started being more mindful of different parts of my body, including my womb, and seeing how different foods that I ate and how that impacted my womb. And as I began to eat more green and more plant-based, how my womb appreciated that, how that impacted my cycles, how that impacted my moods. And then having a child, seeing how, and I had a C-section, and having that cut in that area space, it made me appreciate my womb even more, because you don't realize how it's impacted, having an incision, how that really truly impacts you, and how I had to really do a lot of womb healing through Sacred Woman. I did the Gateway Zero to really help me to unpack and to, strengthen my womb, not only from a spiritual standpoint, but also from a physical standpoint. So yeah, I really appreciate my womb. I recognize how sacred it is. And it's something that I definitely didn't grow up, talking about, as I didn't talk about that at all. It's something that I definitely had to learn through in my adulthood. But I'm grateful that I know it so that I can start with my daughter early.
Yeah. That's those are both great points. Coach Shantae, I think about when you say, you know, there's a whole spiritual side, and both of you saying like, and I third that, not really having the knowledge that we need. My mom didn't really shy away from the conversations either, but you know, she had me at 15. So, you know, it was a learning curve really for the both of us, and we're still learning. But veggie backing on the spiritual side, touched on this a little bit in the last recording, in that, you know, a lot of us suffer from or have suffered from fibroids. And they say that it's, you know, prominent in the Black and brown community, right? And it is really a result of what we're eating, how much of it we're eating. I could definitely attest to that, you know. But on the spiritual side, it's representation of a blow to the feminine ego, you know. So just as it relates to healing the womb space, really going back, traveling in time to unpack, as Coach Latoya said, all the blows that the womb has taken, the psyche has taken, and really, you know, going through layer by layer that healing process. So, you know, of course, we know on the physical side, the fibroids are calcification of mucus. So, you know, we definitely encourage women, no matter your background, to really take a look at your diet, the things that you are consuming, especially the week prior to your moon cycle, because that will determine the type of moon cycle that you have. So I pulled out, this is red raspberry. And red raspberry really is great for womb support. I'm just going to read a little bit of this little sticky that I typed up. So it works to tone the uterine muscles and normalize blood flow during menses. This is one of the best normalizing herbs for the female reproductive organs. Red raspberry leaf is an astringent, contracting and shrinking internal and external body tissue, may assist in preventing hemorrhaging, excess bleeding, assist in reducing bleeding and endometrial tissue. So this is great. You can steep it and drink it as a tea, or you can add it to a yoni steam. Kind of like it's fluffy and barky at the same time, but it doesn't have like a bitter taste, or I wouldn't even say sweet. But I was definitely reminded today that you need to get back into, because clearly I have a nice little amount. I think I even have another bag full. So, you know, get into your red raspberry if you are one who has, you know, excess bleeding and all of the things. So I just wanted to impart that piece of information.
Absolutely. And veggie backing onto the red raspberry, berries in general are really, really, really fantastic and phenomenal for womb health. You can make you a green drink with raspberries, blackberries, blueberries, strawberries, green life, or spirulina if you don't have green life. You can juice that, or you can blend it down, dilute it. Coconut water is my favorite thing to dilute my green drinks with, and chug it. It makes a huge difference when you are a woman and you ingest berries on a regular basis. Do that for yourself, but it definitely will have you feeling pretty spiffy.
Okay, now with the spiffiness.
Yes,
indeed. Now, what poses or exercises would you all suggest for optimal wound care?
I'm gonna kick that to Coach Latoya first.
Yes, well, I'm starting to finally get back into more movement, but I would say some definite hip opening exercises. That's what I've been needing to work on myself. So, and just even just dancing where you're where you're doing a lot of hip movement. That's what I've been doing recently, but those are just a lot of the hip opening exercises. You can find those online or whatnot, but that's pretty much what I've been doing right now. That's all
I saw a brother on Instagram. He was doing a hip opening exercise.
I was like, wow.
That is, but he's also into tantra, so I can
okay,
see
yeah, I know you're talking about. I know exactly. I was like, wow.
That's where the spiritual brothers is at.
Yes,
They're over there doing tantrum.
Yes, indeed. But you know what I think is super easy. Because again, my mental went right to when you said hip opening exercises, my mind went right to that brother, and I was thinking like, whew. That's something.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be that intense at all.
Oh yeah.
But
or squatting too.
The goddess pose is great for strength. And just laying on your back and putting your feet up on a 90-degree angle or 45-degree angle, or if it's not, I'm doing this because I'm actually posting up on a wall. Or you can put 3 or 4 pillows, under your knees, I guess calf wise, so that you're laying on your back and your legs will be, I guess, perpendicular. And that helps to redistribute blood from the feet back to the heart center. So definitely inverting. But you know what? This is why I love these conversations, because sometimes I completely forget, like, oh yeah, you can do that. So that goddess pose is definitely something else as well. So
which one is the goddess pose? Is that the one where you come down into a squat and then up onto your toes? Oh yeah, I love that one. Love that one.
That one is definitely really, really good. So, I think that expounding upon these conversations, especially for like our younger girls, right? Again, thinking of us, and we may have had some conversations with our moms, grandmoms, but sometimes they may not be as comfortable talking to their mothers, grandmothers, aunties, and things like that about womb health, vaginal health, and just if I could impart anything, especially to the younger folks, is the womb records everything.
Yes.
She records all transactions, so to speak. I don't want it to sound so, transaction-y, but anything that takes place as it relates to the heart and the actual, she doesn't forget a thing. So it's really important to develop a relationship with your womb. That's the wisdom. That's, the messages and the downloads. So just keeping in mind that if we are just compounding and compiling partners, experiences, blows to the ego, whatever it is, she doesn't forget. So we really want to make sure that we are indeed checking in with our womb space. We said last week, she'll let you know whether she's digging the person or not. The smell starts to change. A lot of sisters suffering from vaginosis. Is it vaginosis? Vagititis. No, it's vaginosis. When the pH balance is thrown off, we talked about how your partner can influence that balance being thrown off by the way he eats and all the things that he is taking in. Anything to add to that, or in general?
You said exactly what I was going to say. She remembers and records and keeps records of everything. We are in an age where city girls is the big thing, and all of the things that come along with that. You just discard your partner because he ain't no good, and there's not really anyone out there saying, okay, but if you work on you and get yourself together, then you won't have those type of partners trying to come into your space, and you won't have to worry about F and all of that, and not being in company with those types of men. I think if I were to give advice to my younger self and to younger women, number one, it would be your womb and having access to your womb is a prize. It is nothing to be ashamed of. It is nothing to feel embarrassed about. There's a reason that men pursue that specific thing, because it is enjoyable, it is pleasurable. And when loved properly, it lasts in that new pleasurable state for years and years and years and years. Spend as much time as you can exploring yourself, exploring what your womb likes and does not like, whether that be touch, whether that be food, whether that be drink. Pay attention to everything. You don't have to be a part of somebody else's narrative. You don't have to be ashamed or embarrassed about being sexual or sensual. Like, that is not something to be ashamed about. You really can allow yourself to experience that as part of who you are. It doesn't have to be anything to be ashamed of. And if you don't have anybody in your life that you can have these types of conversations with, if you do notice a change in your vaginal discharge, in the way the skin around your vagina feels, in your menstrual cycle, any of those things, and you have no one to talk to, feel free to send an email, text, doggone comment, inbox, whatever, because the more women, young women who are educated about what our wombs are and are not, the healthier the world at large can be. Okay, so learn as much as you can about yourself.
That is definitely a word. That's definitely a word. Anything to add, Coach Latoya?
Yes, when you both were talking, it reminded me of something I wanted to bring up in regards to when it comes to being very selective of who you allow in your access, just like Coach Shantae mentioned, because you can be doing all the right things, but if you allow the wrong person to have access to your room, then it's not, and it could take some time to get to recover from that, you know?
Yes.
So it's just like, be very mindful and have real conversations and observe that person, because it can really change your whole body, you know, and it can take a long time to recover depending on what it is. So that's a big thing.
That's factual.
Indeed. Right. Like, yeah, your body, your mind, and your spirit. And, you know, sex is a sacred energy exchange. And we really, 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 really have to remember that, especially as young men and women. I think that in Western culture, many of us may have learned sex through porn or through the magazines that used to come out, you know, back in the day. And of course, that's not realistic, just in terms of, you know, again, that sacred energy exchange. You know, the sacred energy exchange is literally the one way that natural souls are brought onto the planet. But it's such a taboo subject, you know, we don't really discuss it the way that we should. I mean, I guess we had like sex education in high school. I mean, that seems like many moons ago now. I don't know what the teachings are, you know, at this stage of the game, but I do know that it's not taught from a sacred space.
If it's not.
Say it again, Coach.
If it's taught at all.
If it's taught at all. And when you have children raising children, then it's just, you know, no one's really learning anything at all. Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, to veggie back on the whole sex ed conversation, I live in Alabama. And, you know, there's a lot of Christians and well-meaning individuals who feel like you can't have those conversations because it's going to make young people desire to go out and have sex. So I recall when I was coming up, they kind of, well, they didn't, not kind of, but they stopped all talk of sex ed. Like they put that to the side. Like, we are not doing that because we don't want to influence our children to think that that's okay. And what I found is when people in authority place shame or embarrassment or any type of negative stigma on something, that stigma sticks. So I grew up Seventh-day Adventist, and all that came along with that. And I remember I was just anti, like, no, I'm not having sex till I get married. And I'm just, all of these things going on. And I gave in to pressure from my son's father. And we had, sex and whatnot. And I stayed in that relationship for years past the point that I knew I was supposed to leave, simply because I allowed him to enter into my womb space. And my beliefs had me thinking that I couldn't just be out loose in these streets with all these different men. So since you've just been with this one, then that's the one you just have to stick with him. That's your man, and you got to stick beside him. And it took a lot of work for me to get to the point of saying, you know what, this is not it. This is not working. And then even after I ended the relationship, there was still so much trauma that I had to work through from the religious conditioning for me to even get to a space where I could forgive myself for internalizing certain things that were not beneficial to my spirit. And also to acknowledge that you're a child. You were a child when you entered into this relationship. You had a childish understanding of the world. You didn't really understand what you were doing. You've got to evolve and grow. And so from that space of evolution and growth, I now understand who I am, what my womb is for, how my womb is impacting my life, my child's life, my creativity, all of these different layers and levels of who I am. And it's really been a beautiful awakening. So I definitely, for anyone who is struggling with this back and forth of what do I do and how should I do, you'll understand it better by and by. Just give yourself permission to evolve and grow.
I shade to that. I would like to veggie back on something that you said as it relates to, people of authority maybe placing shame and guilt, or they, let's not even have the conversation at all. And again, it's the one way that we come onto the planet, but it's the one thing that adults don't really like to talk about. Now, of course, it being age appropriate and not force fed the way that, it's happening in TV and just ways that we shouldn't even be checking for real. Right. But it's like, if you want to learn at home, and it would seem as though, parents, and I'm sure that parents do, especially now seeing all that's happening in the world, having the conversation so that the child doesn't go out and, just go buck wild because, no one really said anything. So I guess this is what you're supposed to do. But I think it's really, really important that we have these conversations. And shout out to Sable Hope. The more y'all talk, the more others heal. Words have energy when it comes from the powerful ones, from powerful ones, Rocky, in the whole world. And thank you so much for that. We really do have to continue to have the conversation, even, when awkward, because if the children, the young folks aren't learning from the older, right, that
Mhm.
bridging that gap, how do they learn? Again, I really am a fan of this new book that I started to read, which is Divine Self-Care. And the
Mhm.
author, Sheila Brown, shout out to her. She tells this, she's speaking as though she's speaking to her grandchildren yet to be born. She wants them to understand that you have a divine knowing within you because of the lineage. And no matter what happens, you have to rely on that one, the gift of her words being transcribed and gifted, but also knowing that you have the knowledge and the wisdom within. And even if you feel like you don't, you definitely do. It's just a matter of, activating that knowing. So, excuse me, we have to really, really become super comfortable with having these conversations. And I understand, some people say there's a lot that's said, and there is a lot that is misconstrued as it relates to the sacred energy exchange. But we have become quite abusive with ourselves and one another, just as it relates to, it's almost like a power struggle, or, they say that something like prostitution is the oldest profession, right? And we can't really use her, and no shade of, to whoever has to do it or feels the need to do it. We just have to be accountable and remember that she records everything. Like, if y'all don't take anything away other than she records everything, and there is steps of recovery and healing that is needed, is definitely necessary. So, we thank you for the kind words, and definitely like, subscribe, and share. The more people we have coming into the space and engaging in conversation with us, the better we are. Now, if you want to, shout out to my husband. He had this book, which is
I have
really,
that too.
you do. It's a
Yes,
great
I just got it.
just got it. Okay, okay. It's a safe read, and I would say, honestly, 16 and over, in this day and age, because we really, really need to understand the universe within, albeit the male or female, and how to responsibly handle this sacred energy exchange. So this is called the Jewel of the Lotus, the tantric path to higher consciousness, right? And it's talking about really how to use the sacred energy exchange to heighten, obviously, the consciousness, to heighten your creativity in so many other senses. It's just not about pleasure, so to speak. I mean, although pleasure is a great part in that, but it will be hard to enjoy the pleasure if you're working through pain.
Yes.
So, we want to get to the overstanding so we're not abusing and misusing lotuses and phalluses. So I'll end there.
Ooh, see.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to say, based upon what y'all both have mentioned, like, because I'm in the program where I'm learning more about the sacred sexuality and tapping into your power. But as I was reflecting, I was like, growing up, they gave us bare minimum sexual education, and I didn't really learn anything at home. So then that leaves you to learn on your own experience and from your peers or whatnot. So as I'm now learning more now, I'm seeing like how spirituality and sexuality is connected, just like food and spirituality is connected.
Mm-hmm.
So if we learn from the base of discipline when it comes to food, if we learn how to handle that, then when it comes to things such as sexuality, because all of those things are connected to each other.
Right.
So, so if you learn from just the basic discipline of being mindful of what you put in your body as far as food, that can help you with your discipline in other areas, and just being mindful with your sacred sexuality. And just imagine teaching children age appropriate things, of course, not
Yes.
starting with that, but letting them know the power, how powerful their energy is, just starting there. And then as they get a little older, then introducing them to that book, for example, and just
Right.
it also supports people in being respectful of people's energy, and body autonomy and all of that. All of those discussions can be made, when you have Ma'at, when it comes to not only your food choices, but also sexuality, but not talking about it doesn't help, so
Right.
It
it's
does
very
not
important.
help. Well, ladies, it's been another fabulous conversation. We have so many great topics on tap for 2023. The first quarter is going to be amazing. And we hope to bring in more guests or guest period, because it really has been in-house, but we needed to get our feet wet and get used to, being on camera together and all the things and growing organically. And now we're ready to invite company to the house.
Absolutely.
We had to get the furnishings and everything in order. So, come on back. I think we have one more Monday in this cycle. And then we're headed to what we know as to be 2023. It's like, wait, is it 2013 or is it 2023? Whatever it is. Different story for different days. Right. So I won't go there. I'm not going to go there. I kind of went there, but I won't go any further. So until next week, Monday, we say take care of yourself.
Friday.
Next week, Friday. See, I told y'all, between Currency Conversations with Sisters, us on the Build Through Book Hub, is like, wait, you have to remember, super side note, this has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but kinda. I was a flight attendant in my 20s, and I flew for a carrier that flew different airlines, and I would never forget. I got on I think a US Airways airline, and I had on the wrong uniform, saying the wrong welcome. So I'm like, welcome to United flight, da 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 da. And I can see, like, the passengers, everybody came, like, they were looking down the aisle, like, wait, are we on the right flight? Then I had to look down at my uniform, like, oh my goodness. So y'all, charge it to my head, not my heart. Those were the days. Anyway. Y'all.
Wow.
I know. But next week, Friday, we will be back with
on your birthday.
Oh, yes, on my birthday. Y'all, nice. Next week, Friday, we'll be back on my birthday, 43 trips around the sun. And we'll have, again, tantalizing conversation. And we hope that you enjoy. Again, like, subscribe, and share. Tech Collective TV on YouTube. And let's get these conversations popping. Until the next time, peace.
Peace.